Hello, welcome back. It is week 126 on Out on That Line podcast. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex. Alex, how you doing this week?
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody. Jeff, I am thriving over here. How are you doing, buddy?
I am doing very well. I have a feeling I know why you're thriving.
Are we revisiting the one and only Mitski? Mitski's got a brand new one. The land is inhospitable, and so are we. But first, the thing I wanted to bring up is kind of a somber subject, and I think well-tread territory for a podcast, a music podcast.
Mhm.
But I have a friend, and we're not going to use any government names. I have a friend at work going through a breakup. Now, here are the details I can give you. The guy cheated with an inferior human being. So the
Mm.
sting is great. A lot of questions are being asked. Why me? Why her? Why now? Because she moved to Portland for her relationship. She's
Oh
not
no.
I'm probably going to lose my work friend because of this. So thanks a lot, asshole.
Mhm.
But the reason that she moved here is no more. There's a lot of layers to this. And we were talking today, and she asked me to help her put together a breakup playlist because she wants some weird
Ooh.
stuff. She wants some stuff
Okay.
that's going to hit right at her nougaty center. So we're
Okay.
going to try to spitball here and we don't have to do a bunch of songs, but we'll build a little playlist.
Okay.
Do you
Well,
want to
I
start
got
or
I
should
got
I?
one. Yeah, I got one right off the
Do it.
top. Sometime around midnight by the Airborne Toxic Event. You want to talk about a heat-seeking missile of a breakup song. That is one for you.
So I'm not familiar with the song. What's the premise? Like getting
So the
revenge?
it basically just kind of like builds up. It's my kind of song where it just like starts, one way and then it just builds up into this whole grandiose thing. But essentially the storyline is, it starts around midnight or sometime around midnight, and that's when you see her for a moment or two, and it's kind of describing seeing this person like that you had a connection with that you have no longer, enjoying a night, living their life, and you're kind of observing it within their space, and they know you're there and you've acknowledged each other and talked, but you're just slowly kind of becoming drunker and drunker, and you watch them like kind of get with somebody else, and you've got to kind of process all of this. And the way that that story is told, like it starts with this like really really nice kind of string arrangement, and then eventually it just gets into this very intense, like very grandiose, like think of like Queen, think of, just something big and bold like the Killers, think of things like that when that's how this song finishes up. And it's really just like kind of heart-wrenching the way that everything gets described. And I mean, I've got no reason to relate to that song any longer, but it's just so well done that I'll still listen to that. And it's still emotional and it's still great.
Okay, so we've got, Jeff music, which means it ends with somebody spitting up blood. Um,
Well, sort of. I mean, they're
that's
not the Airborne
good.
Toxic Event. They're not a metal band for sure. Not. They're an indie band. It
Got it.
definitely it winds itself up like a good Arcade Fire song would. It winds itself up
Oh,
like that, but it's not a heavy song. He does
got
scream,
it.
like sing very loudly and passionately, but I would not say it's like a heavy song at all.
Okay, good. All right. Intrigued. My first one that I thought of was the TikTok favorite, Silver Springs, Fleetwood Mac. That
Mhm.
song has a lot of white women in their feelings because of that
Yeah.
one particular performance where Stevie Nicks just looks motherfucker in the eye. And it's like, you will never get away from the sound of a woman that loves you. Follow my voice till it haunts you. I'm gonna stalk you and boil your cat. Just absolutely spitting venom. You go, Stevie Nicks. I love it. It's great. I'm making fun of it,
Mhm.
but it was amazing. That is like a rage anthem. So I think I'm gonna slap that one on there for her. I think she's gonna have a moment.
I think you could select really anything, from Death Cab for Cutie, circa like the
Mm,
Transatlanticism or the photo albums, or We Have the Facts and We're Voting Yes. As they went on later, he's a little happier, a little less breakup-y on a lot of the songs, but those earlier albums for sure, a lot of nuggets in there if you need some real emotional kind of music.
Absolutely. And that's the thing too, is it's the delicate balance of picking things that match the situation lyrically, picking things that match the situation emotionally, picking things that are the complete opposite or from a different perspective. Like one of my other picks, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, Meatloaf. Had to throw some
Ooh,
loaf in there. And that one
yeah.
is just Jeff, there ain't no Coupe de Ville hiding at the bottom of a Cracker Jack box. I don't know if you knew
Mm-mm,
that, but Meatloaf told me that. Jim Steinman
mm-mm.
told me that by way of Meatloaf. And yeah, no song puts me in my feelings quite like that. So had to slap that one on there for her.
Yeah, just the delivery that Meatloaf gives in that song. That I mean,
Mm,
that whole album, but that song in particular, like if you want to hear the essence of Meatloaf, someone's gonna throw at you bad out of hell. You know, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. A song like 2 out of 3 ain't bad. That's the loaf, baby.
that tells you pretty much all you need to know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he went into like the metal of it and the grandeur of it, but at the center of the whole thing, the Meatloaf episode was just like the teenage dream, the boy at heart, guy whose big heart could easily be broken. That was
Mm-hmm.
Meatloaf. Rest his
Mm-hmm.
soul. But we're not
And
here to
I'm
talk about Meatloaf,
no,
Jeff.
no, we're here to talk about getting your heart broken. And if so, this is going to be one if you are looking for something definitely on the heavy side. It's a song called Gray Out by a band called Throne. No, that one is that's a heavy one. You know, that one's definitely on the metalcore side, but if you got some anger you got to work out, that's a good way to do it for sure. Rise Against
Okay.
also had several of those. If you're into the more kind of melodic hardcore side of things, Rise Against has some great ones from the first few albums. One called Gethsemane, which is a fantastic song by them
Oh,
from their first album that you may like because it's related to that John Farnham reaction video, which you can find if you search our reaction playlist on this site. Yeah, you like the way I snuck that in there.
that's pretty good.
Let's see, more breakup songs. I mean, Olivia Rodrigo from Sour, uh,
Pretty
Good
much
for
sour
You.
top to bottom.
Yeah, Sour top to bottom, Good for You specifically. If you kind of got a, you know, you got a little bit of rage, you got to work out. Traitor,
Mhm.
probably one that's going to fit. Well, actually, no, it doesn't fit because she literally says, "You didn't cheat, but you're still a traitor." It sounds like that's not what happened.
Oh, no, he did a whole lot of cheating up in there. Don't
Yeah,
you worry
actually,
your pretty little head about it.
I mean, it's a great song. There's probably better options that are more fitting if you're looking for something more literally applicable to the situation, but it's a fun song, and I think the sentiment is correct with that one.
Yeah, I really think Olivia Rodrigo, even as a, 33-year-old man, I can relate to all of that. And
Hmm.
God forbid there's ever, another breakup situation like that. But I'm not too proud to say I'd rage to Olivia Rodrigo.
No,
Listen,
it'd get.
I'm not allowed to go to her concerts because it would look fucking weird, but I'm
I
only
think
there
you'd
to
be
jam to the music.
honestly. I think you'd be surprised. You're gonna see a lot of dads that were like, "Oh, I had to be the one to bring my daughters to this one."
See, maybe I'll just pretend and I'll just be like, that's mine over there. And they'll be like, that girl's the same age as you. And I'm like, just don't worry about it. She's
Yeah,
adopted.
we're a blended family.
Yeah, relax, relax. It's not
Yeah.
weird, step sibling porn. Don't worry.
So we're going to talk about Mitski today. Mitski came out with a new album, and for somebody that said she was going to step away from music, it sure doesn't seem like she's taken a very big step. She came out with an album, what, 2 years ago? I think it was,
Last
maybe
year?
three. Last year came out with an album, and then a whole new one this year. This one, The Land is Inhospitable, and So Are We. I think was like sonically, I guess sound wise, kind of exactly what I expected. Definitely not your like love me more kind of out kind of song. Definitely not your like nobody kind of song. You know, a lot of these were a lot of your slower ballads, you know, and it was not a very long album either. So it being mostly comprised of ballads, I think a lot of times would probably that wouldn't be cool with me if it's like 45 minutes or an hour long. It being 32 minutes and it being Mitski, you can load me up with all the ballads you want. I'm good with it. This album was fantastic.
Oh, yeah, I'll take them all in my eager little
Hmm.
mouth. I, comparing this to the last one, Laurel Hell, That one definitely felt like the swan song of someone who had had enough of this shit. It also felt
Mhm,
like one of the things that is always said about Frank Zappa, got him in, that he could have been a mainstream pop star. He could have written like really great pop, by the numbers, entertaining, catchy pop. He could have done that if he steered in that direction, but he didn't. It wasn't what he was interested in. And Laurel Hell, which I loved and I think is great for this, was just kind of like treating that pop sound as a burden to be worked around. Like, I don't
mhm,
want to take this on, but I got to do something with it and make it uniquely Mitski. And she did. And it was amazing. But there was literally the idea of Laurel Hell is a thicket of vegetation that is so dense and so thick that if you go into it, you get stuck and you die there.
mhm,
And that tells you everything you need to know about that album, to then transition into this one, which is coming from such a like naked and unafraid place. It's super stripped back. It's super duper honest. Like I'm not trying to be like a gross pervert when I say like it's performing naked, or you could like see her on stage
mhm,
performing this one with like zero inhibitions about it. Just like really kind of knocking down the wall between Mitski and the fans in a way that she's always said is not possible.
mhm,
I've never like felt closer to her or her music than on this album. As much as I love everything that came before it, this was really like being invited in at long last. Like just a little bit, but getting invited into it, it was like, oh, it was glorious.
mhm. I think to me, this really struck me, and I think I kind of had the thought like pretty much right when I got done with my first listen through it. This is her like fetch the bolt cutters moment, that Fiona Apple album, because I
That's an apt
think that,
comparison.
and I think it was, and it's not like quality wise, whatever. They're both fantastic albums. Like it's not saying one's better than another or anything, or this like is the best thing since that or anything. Like it's just simply saying that like the kind of way their careers had gone. Like my knowledge of Fiona Apple was that song Criminal, and maybe I'd heard like one or two other ones, but it wasn't, and then you hear Fetch the Bolt Cutters, and that's such a deeply, almost like disturbingly personal album, the subjects and the things that she goes into and really tells the truth about. I felt like this Mitski album was doing that very thing. I think the lead single, I think, was the one that was the what Bug Like an Angel, right? Was the one
Bug
that
like an
had,
angel.
yeah. Honestly, to me, I think that was like the worst song on the album. I think in not saying that it's a bad song, but it's weird to me that, and it might be something she did on purpose, is just pick the one that's probably the least poppy and the least likely to be like a viral TikTok kind of sensation to be the lead single. And starting out the album like that, it's like the way that she does the lyrics in that song. And it was that was the only really negative thing I have to say about the entire experience, is the way that the first like kind of verses are structured. And I was like, oh, this is going to be some like indie gibberish, basically. And the way she just pulls out of that, and then by the time you get to what is the deal, is the song where it's all of a sudden this like kind of big orchestral arrangement comes in and just lifts everything up, and you just feel yourself go right up with that. That song that I was talking about, the Sometime Around Midnight by the Airborne Toxic Event, it's that same thing. That's the kind of build up and like release that I love to have in music. And from that point, she does it a few times in this album. And I think she is so like musically gifted as far as her ear and knowing what should go where, never doing too much, but always doing enough, and I think it to me, I think the talent is, as far as like the indie rock scene goes, I don't know. There's Mitski and everybody else. I don't know if there's anybody else really that's at the level she is, because this album was crazy anticipated. Like every time she comes out with an album now, it's like you hear about people like Taylor Swift and you hear about people like Olivia Rodrigo, but try to get a Mitski ticket. Try it. See how easy it is to do that, and I think what that goes to show is that no matter what, she is going to have such a dedicated fan base, and that comes with some pressure where she feels like she has to keep kind of producing for them. but it also like she clearly likes doing this because you don't make something this good unless it's something you still love to do. So she had said she was taking a step back and wanted to kind of maybe maybe she quickly found the mental clarity or peace or whatever it is she was looking for quickly, because this album is very personal. There's definitely some kind of very negative emotions associated with some of these themes, but it's not in such a way that I would expect from somebody coming out with an album this soon after they said they were done making music. It's just, I don't know how else to kind of describe the emotions in it, but it's just not as heavy as I thought it was going to be, but it's still just as like soul bearing as I expected.
Well, and we joked about that too at the end of the last episode. Like, are we getting depressing Mitski? And there are definitely depressing aspects to it. There's depressing aspects to pretty much everything she does because she's
Mhm.
incredibly smart and has a lot of existential dread and has a lot of talent. And it's kind of like a cosmic gumbo. Um, but and the other thing she does is she has an ear for collaborators, and this guy Drew Erickson, who was also on Chloe in the 20th Century, Father John Misty, and In the Darkness, Hearts Aglow, Wise Blood, which I loved. I know you weren't a fan,
Mhm.
but you kind of hear that like very grand, very lush. It's not even theatrical. It's like light operatic, the strings and the way that everything kind of lifts orchestrally, even when it's just like animal sounds, the way that it's built, the way
Mhm.
that things kind of come to a fever pitch on this, it's very emotional and it has like a very clear sound. And it's so interesting to me that you didn't like Bug Like an Angel, because I'm like, the first time I heard it was in that reaction video I did, and as soon as that choir hits on the just like family, just like
Mhm.
just kind of rushes in
That
like
was a
that.
good moment. It's just the way she was doing those lyrics in the first part of it. I was like, oh god, we're getting some real like indie gibberish here.
Oh, I'm all about it. Just funnel
Yeah.
it down my neck hole. And that line, "When I'm bent over, wishing it was over," I'm like, that is classic Mitski
Yeah.
wit. And I mean, these songs all are. I'm reading this book right now called "A Swim in a Pond in a Rain," or "A Swim in a Pond in the Rain" by George Saunders, and it's basically taking short stories by Tolstoy, uh, um, Chekhov, all these Russian authors, and like analyzing them for like why they're so great and what you can learn about writing from reading them, and kind of looking at all those little stories in isolation. That's kind of what the songs on this album are like. They're like these beautiful little Russian short stories. Um, and it's the other cool tie-in to that idea of like looking at it from an academic standpoint is what she's doing on YouTube. She's been releasing these videos, these little tutorials about how she wrote the song. They're super low def, no production value, just like camera on her. She's like, "Hi, I'm Mitski, and I'm going to talk to you about the process of writing Bug Like an Angel." So, like, there's real care and craft and enthusiasm in this, which again, we're talking about how she was almost going to hang it up. There's like no trace of that here. And it was
Mhm.
such an uplifting listening experience because of that, even when she was talking about dark, depressing stuff.
And it could be the kind of thing where it's like you don't know what you got till it's gone. You know, it's a classic saying. And you don't think you do it with something that is the main part of your career, and like the reason people know you is your music. So you decide like that's not making you happy anymore, or you're just not as happy as you used to be, and you're thinking that part of the reason is because of the music side of things. So you decide you're going to take a step back, and then you realize like, no, those feelings are still there, and that's how I was getting them out. So I think you allow yourself to change your perspective on how you approach that, where it's probably a completely different, it's still the same talented Mitski, but probably a completely different Mitski as far as how she's going to relate to now her public persona, her fans, you know, what she feels is expected of her. I think it doesn't matter how long, it could have been 10 years that she was away. You know, she's was going to come to that realization, I think, no matter what, is because you don't make music as good as she does and not enjoy doing it in some capacity. Or there's something about the creative process that's your place you get fulfillment from. And she felt like when she made the decision, maybe that's what was like a reset button for her about what was important to her with her career, with her music. And that's why she decided to come out with this album again, because there's no drop off here. in what you expect out of Mitski and what you get delivered on this album. You know, Laurel Hell was a fantastic album, but so are the rest of her albums. I mean, Meet Me at Makeout Creek, phenomenal. Be the Cowboy, phenomenal. I mean, it's just everything she's done. She's one of those artists that you just like a Tyler Childers, like a Sturgill Simpson, where it's like, you know, they're not going to release something unless it is quality. And they have the gas in their artistic tank that they can keep pumping these things out kind of as long as they want to. There are some people that are just so good at being a conduit for inspiration that they just can't help but create great things when they set their mind to doing it. I think she's at that level now where it's not going to matter what she makes. You may not like it for specific reasons, but I don't think you're ever going to be able to doubt that she's one of the most talented like songwriters out there right now.
Just like everything on this album was utterly captivating. The question now becomes, what was your favorite song off the album? This is going to say a lot about you.
So the deal is the one that jumps out for me because that was the one when it popped. I was like, that's what really got me into the album the first time. Like from that, I didn't not like it before that, but when that big buildup hit finally in the deal, it was fantastic. But I'm Your Man, I think, is my favorite song on the album.
Really?
Yeah. And it just, I think because, and let me make sure I'm talking about the right one here. I just need to like grab a look at a couple of lyrics here. Yes, the way the her lyrics here. So you're an angel, I'm a dog, or you're a dog and I'm your man. You believe me like a god, I destroy you like I am. I mean, that to me, I heard that line and I was like, ooh, you know, just that what you felt like you just touched a stove. You know, you hear a
Mm-hmm.
lyric like that, and that is what really I think what I enjoy about Mitski is she's so tongue in cheek sometimes where she'll kind of like wrap things up in metaphors to like kind of disguise what she's saying and like how mean what she's saying is. But there's sometimes where she'll just like outright say something like that in such a clever way that I'm like, that's why, again, I say this all the time. That's why she is who she is. And I'm talking about it on a podcast.
Yes, exactly. Where's our
Yeah.
statue? Ain't gonna be one, Jeff, if you don't build statues for critics.
Yeah.
But so I would say My Love, Mine All Mine, butchering the title, but I mean,
No, that was
My
it. That
Love,
was perfect. Nailed it.
My Love, Mine All Mine.
Hmm.
Okay,
No
cool. I got
punctuation in there either. So you got that part right too.
beautiful. Let's eat grandma. Um, so yeah, I really love that song because it swings, it's tender, it's a highlight of it's like an emotional highlight of the album because it's not quite as dark as what I think my actual favorite is. Like that one is the one that maybe I'll like cop to so people don't worry about me. But I don't like my mind. A song has not spoken to me at my
Yeah.
core like that song has in a long, long time. And I realized that, Jeff, you know how some people are chocoholics?
Hmm.
Well, I'm an alcoholic. That was a Simpsons bit. Um, it's an amazing bit. Um, but no, so it's like it's a song about being a workaholic to an unhealthy degree, but really more where I related to it was a lot of the like mania that takes place within this self-loathing and this like tunnel vision where it's like I work and then I get so stressed out and I like have this emotional this like psychosis where I eat an entire cake and then I puke it up and then I go back to work because this I have to throw myself into this because this is the only thing that matters to me right now because everything outside of this is too fucking terrifying. If I'm left alone with my thoughts, I'm going to realize what a piece of shit I am and who knows what I'm going to do. So,
Hmm.
I just got to focus on this work. It's kind of like me with this podcast. Please don't take
This
this
is
job
the
from
other-
me.
yeah, your parents both reached out to me individually and they said you have to keep doing it every week, please.
Jeff, we'll pay you. We'll Venmo you.
So I think, and you could correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I think that I Don't Like My Mind. I think that song was probably the most like direct, you know, kind of reasoning we're going to get to what she's gone through in this last year since she like kind of announced that she's retiring from music. I think this song is kind of where she explains like what her thought process was for wanting to stop doing it in the first place, and then kind of where she ended up wanting to get back into it is because it's like what brings you pain is also the thing that brings you joy, you know. And I think it's that double-edged sword that she knows she's always going to have to deal with. And then but I think what I liked about this album, what I hope she does with the rest of his with her career, is just make what you want to make. You know, clearly you love creating things. Don't like put the pressure on yourself of what type of thing you need to create, what you think it is people want to hear. Like people want to hear what you have to say, because this is a very different sound than she's had on previous album. Like not that she hasn't done ballads, and you know, she's got like some slide guitar on here. She's got like a straight up country song on this album. You know,
Yeah.
you don't need to go back. Like those were what you were feeling then. You know, love you more is what you were, or love me more is what you were feeling then. This is what you're feeling now. And I feel like this is, you know, I think if this is going to be like, if this is where you're going to be able to be the most honest with yourself and be able to kind of find your emotional fulfillment with making the songs like this, like keep doing what you're doing. Cause no matter what she does, I think her talent is at such a level that it's not going to make one bit of difference what kind of music she decides to make. It's going to be good. May not be your cup of tea, but it's going to be good.
And like to be totally corny about it, like what a gift. This album, like obviously she's gifted, but this album, what a gift. Like
Mhm.
I again legitimately like to compare it to the exact opposite. Listening to Post Malone. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to like dunk on Posty, but that was a confusing listening experience where you're like, I know he's trying really hard to let me peek behind the curtain. Um, no, thank you. I'm not really interested in what you're doing here with your weird, like, I tended my garden and it died. I'm not, I'm good. I'm all set, buddy. But then you get a song again, like, I don't like my mind. And just like it's so plain spoken. Then I get sick and throw up. And of course, like I was like full on like racked with sobs. I was like, oh, cake. Oh, for me. It's incredible. And like you could, like, I do it in a very funny way that doesn't do justice to like how like crazy and raw. Like that's a weird, fucked up thing to say. I was manic, so I ate a whole cake. And it's like, I've never done that. Come close. I've never done that. But like mania makes you do some wild shit. And then you
Mhm.
sit there in the aftermath of it and you're like, holy fuck. And that's what that song is to me. And it's like, again, I've never related more to material like this in a long, long time. So unfortunately, it didn't arrive yet, but I already went out and bought the damn thing. So you know where I'm going with it. This is a clear and present buy it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna definitely buy this one. I think it's gonna be a vinyl just because it's gonna add to the Mitski collection, but I might grab it on CD because I always preach on here. CD's just easier. I mean, it's just an easier medium to use. It's nice to have the vinyl. It's nice to have the collection, that kind of physical, that tactile feeling of it. But it's really just on CD, it's gonna sound so, so good. So, so good. I mean, it sounded great on my headphones just streaming it from my phone, which is like a very
Yeah.
compressed, like if that's how your option to listen to music, I'm not saying don't do that, but if you have an option of like like a speaker system, or you have like a big Bose speaker or something that's just going to have a bigger range of sound, do it on that, especially an album like this, because musically it's fantastic and you're going to appreciate it for that. But again, you can just turn it up loud. Let Mitski just take you right off into dreamland. I mean, it's fantastic. I'm gonna buy it both ways. You should go out and do the same for sure.
Buying it both ways, Jeff.
Yeah,
My God, man.
yeah. And I'm on the hunt for a cassette deck. Every Goodwill I go into.
Yes, I have a portable cassette player, my friend, and I gotta tell you,
Ooh.
it is some way to live. You put in a little. I
Hmm.
have one cassette. Stopped collecting at one. It's the one I bought when I bought the portable cassette player. It was Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA.
Oh, baby.
And it is a whole ass vibe when you just strutting around the
Yeah.
neighborhood with that motherfucker.
Ooh, speaking of breakup songs, Bobby Jean.
Ooh, yeah, okay. That's
Hmm.
good.
Yeah. Although she may not want to say good luck to the guy, but that's a great breakup song.
Yeah, she got a couple things she's gonna say to him. A whole cake, Jeff, a whole ass cake.
Well, is there anything else, any other closing thoughts you had for this week, my friend?
I mean, I don't have much by way of closing thoughts other than, youtube.com/C/out on that line. But other than that, you know, Mitski forever.
Mitski forever. Until next time.